actually, before we...
Should have done that live on air.
I can leave that in. Funny. Hello everyone, welcome to Fishin, the podcast where we discuss off-color competitive merfolk and help the whole community become better merfolk players. My name is Kody. Off-color merfolk players. They tell bad jokes and make people uncomfortable. My name is Kody. I'm one of the hosts of the show, and we also have Matt with us, as always. How are you doing, Matt?
I am surviving. We are recording a day later than normal. I was incredibly sick all weekend, so I couldn't really talk yesterday or the day before. So I have a bottle of water and a handful of menthol cough drops. So hopefully we'll get through this without me sounding completely awful and hacking up a lung.
Yeah, don't hack up a lung. I've heard that you need those. So you can find me
That's why God gave you two.
I don't think that's how that works.
Isn't it like a kidney? You can like donate a lung to somebody because you have two.
I'm not a doctor, but I think you need both. Just a guess. Anyway,
I don't understand how this organ donation thing works. I can give part of a liver even though I have one, but I can't give a lung because I have two.
I don't know.
Come on, science, get it together.
Yeah, get your act together, evolution. You can find me on Twitter as @NotCodySmith, and we can find Matthew where?
You can find me complaining on the Twitter about organ donation @MatthewCaudill8.
And you can find us on @FishcastMTG for the show's Twitter, and that's where we have great conversations with Merfolk players just like you. Because I seriously doubt non-Merfolk players are listening to this too regularly.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of Merfolk players listening to us.
I hope that would be cool, but I'm not. I wouldn't ever be upset to hear that a friend of mine who liked me genuinely as a human didn't listen to my podcast, because it's like, yeah, we have a very incredibly narrow focus, so it's okay. I understand.
I like to dream. I had a dream. I was gonna go into song like from Les Mis. Yeah. But I've never actually seen Les Mis. I just know the opening to that line is "I had a dream," and I literally realized I don't know the rest of the song.
It's been a while, but for me, I haven't seen Les Mis in some time. But if you would like to support us on Patreon to help us not talk about Les Mis and other musical stylings, you can support us.
Or talk about it more often.
Or if you want to talk about it more often, let us know in the comments, as well as at patreon.com/fishcastmtg. For as little as $1 a month, you can help support our show. And believe me, it has gone a long way in helping us get updated audio equipment, getting we have some cool stuff coming down the line here. That's basically all thanks to you fine people and supporters at Patreon. So thank you very much.
And we're shills for money, and I'll volunteer Kody to do whatever I feel like it. So if maybe we'll get a Patreon goal. If we hit it, Kody will put on a one-man show of cats.
That would be interesting for sure.
And he'd actually have to try in full cat costume with whiskers.
Oh, the whiskers are I think the easiest part. Just draw just the Sharpie. That's the easy part of the costume. All right, so we did not get any new patrons, but continue sharing the show with your friends, talking about it online, posting in whatever subreddits or other magic websites that you go to, and telling your local Merfolk player about us. We really do appreciate that.
Thanks a lot, Kiora. You're so awful. We didn't get any patrons this week.
It's all Kiora's fault.
It really is. Keeps sucking even more.
Because we did not get a new patron, we did not get a random Merfolk for the week. So I put it in my human number randomizer. Yeah, which is Matt as a excellent addition to his role as co-host on the show. He is also our human random number generator, and he
picked... about a second before we start the show. Oh crap! We don't have a random Merfolk yet. Hey Matt, pick a number real quick. Get between 1 and 248, and I just said 248. So
Yep.
or whatever the number was.
That's how it worked. So
A little behind the scenes for you guys.
yeah, we're incredibly professional, and we appreciate all the support again at patreon.com/fishcastmtg.
Professional show here.
The random Merfolk this week is random Merfolk number 248, which is I think an interesting one. Can you let us know what it is, Matt?
Yes, it is Whiskful Selkie. Whiskful Selkie is a 2/2 creature Merfolk wizard for 3 hybrid Simic mana. And it has, when it comes into play, draw a card. I actually really like this card. I know kind of when we talked about it, when we first brought it up, you were like, this card is garbage. But if I remember correctly, this card actually saw some competitive play there for a while. Well, especially in those mono green devotion decks.
Well, I don't think that it's garbage, and it wasn't necessarily around for when mono green devotion was a thing, but it's definitely not great. I mean, it's fine. It replaces itself. It's a body, and generally, if you're playing Commander or something like that, then this isn't too bad. But there are better Merfolk, I think.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's in the devotion decks because it's a 2/2 body, draws a card, and it gets you 3 devotion. So. Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty decent.
I think it being costing 3 mana is kind of what keeps it from seeing like real competitive play, like in Modern.
Absolutely.
But it's fine other than that.
Now, Cody, I think the real thing we need to talk about is what actually is a Selkie, because I did not know until you told me.
Yeah, so if you look at the art on this interesting creature, it's a little creepy, and you'll notice that while it is a Merfolk, it doesn't have the traditional, kind of fishy bottom. It actually has the bottom of a seal.
Fishy bottom sounds dirty.
Yep.
You dirty, dirty boy.
Yep. So Selkies are basically Merfolk that have the bottom of seals. And they only came about during the Great Aurora, where the plane of Shadowmoor was overlaid over Lorwyn. So when it switched, these Selkies were basically came into being. I love the flavor text on this because it kind of describes that they had a weird longing for the ocean, but again, there was no ocean in Lorwyn. So
can you read the flavor text real quick? That's something I did not do.
Yeah, the flavor text is Selkies called to a sea they never swam, in a tongue they never spoke, with a song they never learned. And obviously, this is not the most common Selkie. There's Cold Eye Selkie, which is the one that has probably actually seen more play than this. But with that one, you only see the top of the head, so you don't get to see what it is. But I think there's only 3 Selkies in all of Magic.
I think we need to see more Selkies.
Selkies are interesting for sure, but they are a little creepy.
Yeah, there were a bunch of those kind of weird creatures. Like, weren't they like the goat people or the mule people in Eventide as well? Eventide had some weird stuff going on.
Yeah, I mean the plane shifting into Shadowmoor really messed things up. It really changed how things happened. So yeah, the Merfolk became a little different. They added black instead of instead of white like they were in Morningtide and all that. So but yeah, I mean, I don't think there's really anything else to say about this creature. It's just it exists.
Except for bring back Lorwyn, bring back Selkies.
Yeah, bring back Lorwyn for sure. I'm totally okay with that.
He's Tim.
And he's Harry.
And we're about to turn paper sideways. Turn Paper Sideways is a fortnightly podcast where we talk about all things Magic the Gathering, from current affairs to our favourite format, Commander.
Join us as we break down new decks, review new sets, and discuss new and old strategies.
Find us on your podcast app, on YouTube, and on soundcloud.com/turnpapersideways.
You can also find us on Twitter at TPSMTG.
Cheerio.
All right, so let's go ahead and go into our main topic, which we are doing something a little different. We are discussing our favorites non-blue Merfolks.
Yeah, actually really stoked about this. I mean, anybody who listens to the show at all knows that I love the Lorwyn block a lot, which has our black and white Merfolk in it. So it gives me excuse to talk about those. and it's just really cool to see off-color cards.
Yeah, and so we were kind of going back and forth on it to see how many we should do, how if we should include changelings in this, and we do have a few changelings that we do want to discuss, but we tried to keep these all merfolk that do not have any shred of blue in them, because obviously mono blue is kind of the bee's knees, as it were, of merfolk.
And when we say no blue, we mean absolutely no blue. So there's no hybrid mana, no Simic, no Azorius. We're talking straight non-blue Merfolk.
Yes. So we'll go ahead and kick it off. Do you want to talk about the changelings that we had pulled up first?
Yeah. So Kody and I agreed. Well, the rules of this list is we each picked 3 non-color Merfolk, non-blue colored Merfolk. But we decided that we wanted to each have 1 additional changeling. Now, we're going to do 1 changeling as kind of an honorable mention because it is the best changeling and it is the best non-blue Merfolk, and that would be Chameleon Colossus. It's too easy for us to pick him, so we're both going to say Chameleon Colossus is kind of our pick. That's not really our changeling pick.
Yeah.
So Chameleon Colossus is 2 green, 2 of anything for a 4/4 shapeshifter. Has changeling, so that's what makes it a Merfolk. It's pro black, and it has 2 green and 2 colon. Chameleon Colossus gains XX until the end of turn or exits its power. So it really quickly becomes an 8/8 or a 16/16, and it has pro black, and it's just amazing. It's been amazing since it's been printed.
Yeah, so that's definitely, like we said, it would be the easy pick, but we did want to at least make mention of it. So what was your actual pick, Matt?
For those who follow us on Twitter at MTG Fishcast, they would actually
Fishcast MTG.
Yeah, whatever. I'm still not feeling awesome, so, and I'm on a lot of NyQuil. But anyway, I posted it when you actually asked this question last week, and it's Crib Swap, another Lorwyn card. So Crib Swap is a tribal instant shapeshifter. It is 1 white and 2 of anything, and it has exile target creature. Its controller creates a 1/1 colorless shapeshifter creature token with changeling. Now, anybody who's seen this card before, the artwork is fantastic. It is a Kithkin looking over her baby, and her baby is missing, and there's just this creepy looking changeling staring back at her. So the art is goofy and creepy and actually a little terrifying if you think about the child missing. But in Commander, exiling a creature is really, really, really good. Essentially, the graveyard is your second hand more often than not without a card limit.
Yeah.
So exiling is fantastic. There's not many things pull from exile. Very, very rarely. So this does. And all you're doing is giving them a 1/1 token that's any creature type. And more often than not, in most of the Commander games I play in, when you create the bird token or the beast token or whatever, people kind of forget that token's even on their board because it's completely useless to them.
And this is giving them something way more useless than a 3/3 beast. This is a 1/1.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the only way it would even be worth mentioning is if you did it to somebody who was playing a tribal deck and then they had Coat of Arms out. Then all of a sudden the thing beefs up. But other than that, it's completely useless. So you exile, the major problem's gone forever, and they get nothing for it.
Yep. Yeah, so I mean I totally agree. That's definitely an excellent Magic card, and we'll have to discuss blue-white or a white splash in Modern Merfolk in a future episode. But yeah, I think that was a good one.
All right, Kody, what is yours? I'm excited.
So I actually picked a changing removal spell as well because I think that it's just interesting that there's a Merfolk removal spell. Yeah. So I think that's very interesting. And this one,
2 of them, we're both talking.
Yeah. And this one definitely sees play in Pauper. I don't know if this has ever seen play in Modern at all. I don't think so. But it is.
It saw play in Standard back in the day.
Yeah, it definitely saw play in Standard, and it's definitely a limited All-Star as well. This is Nameless Inversion. Nameless Inversion is 1 and a black for a tribal instant shapeshifter, and it has changeling, so there's the Merfolk part. Target creature gets +3, -3 until end of turn, and loses all creature types. So basically, it shrinks something. It does the kind of thing that you'd see in Dimir a lot, where it shrinks the power or adds to the power and shrinks the toughness. So it's one of those things that it's a removal spell, but it's also a pump spell. So if your creatures are high enough in power, then this is just a straight up pump spell. This one you'd have to be kind of careful about in modern Merfolk, like if you did a blue-black version with Nameless Inversion, because it does make your creature that you target it with lose its creature type. So basically it would lose any pumps that it would get from other lords, and it would kill it. So like you couldn't have like 3 lords and then like Nameless Inversion a Silvergill Adept and have it survive, because it would lose all its buffs from the lords.
And one thing is worth mentioning too is this gets around indestructible, because you're subtracting 3 from its toughness, and it cannot have a toughness of negative or 0. It would still die.
Yes, so that is definitely something that is interesting for maybe very corner case scenarios. I don't think that it would actually see a whole lot of play, but I just thought it was really cool and interesting. And it only costs 2 mana, so it's as far as like in competitive formats, I could see this seeing some play just because of how cheap it is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I actually way back early when Commander was still called EDH, I was playing a Wart deck. And I was Goblin Tribal, and I played this card because I could fish it out of my graveyard and just keep popping creatures constantly. So yeah. It's a great EDH tribal card. I think vampires could easily play this as well. Unfortunately, I don't think there's enough black Merfolk to make it worth it in a commander deck. Yeah. Somebody out there, prove me wrong, please. But it's still a great Merfolk.
Yeah, it's definitely.
It's also a great goat.
Yeah, yeah, and a changeling and
a unicorn.
And a pangolin, and a beast, and literally everything.
And a Steve Bannon.
It might be the best Steve Bannon ever.
It is. I like this Steve Bannon a lot more.
All right, so we're going to move into our actual Merfolk. These are not changelings of any kind. So, Matt, why don't you go ahead and tell us your number 3?
My number 3 is... I'm going to tell you guys all right now, every one of mine comes from the Lorwyn block. Deal with it. I love it. So my number 3 is Harpoon Sniper. 1 white, 2 of anything. It's uncommon, and it's a 2/2 for a Merfolk Archer. It has 1 white and tap. Harpoon Sniper deals X damage to target attacking or blocking creature, where X is the number of Merfolk you control. Now, this is probably not going to see any play in any competitive formats, but we're talking EDH here. And I get maybe fringe modern Merfolk one day. I'm not holding my breath. But in EDH, I think this can really be something. I mean, it really sets it up as, I mean, you're in most Merfolk decks, you're going to be going wide. And if they're trying to get through with something big, I mean, you completely stop their attack, as you can just completely pop it. And it doesn't necessarily have to be attacking you. So you can politic a lot with this card, which makes it a lot of fun.
Plus the art is great. Like it has like what looks like a kind of a crossbow, but it's like being held up by what looks like a tentacle of some kind.
Yeah, it's super goofy.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Oh no, that's its tail.
Yeah,
it's like leaning back.
It's his tail, and it's like dude used like a slingshot.
Oh,
it's
snap.
Like pulling back the arrow, holding the thing with its tail, and like just pulling it straight back. Again, check it out. It's really cool.
Made from whiskersill bones, marrow spine bows can fire bolts through tree trunks. Oh snap! He means business.
Yeah, he does.
All right. So I definitely agree with you. EDH wise, it's a great Merfolk to add to your white pile of Merfolk.
And just like most Merfolk, I mean, it's recently costed 1 white, 2 of anything.
Yeah, it's not too bad at all. So my number 3 is one that I find interesting. I don't know if there's really a place for it as of yet, but I do think that it is an interesting addition to Merfolk. This is from Rivals of Ixalan, and it's a rare, and it's World Shaper. World Shaper costs 3 and a green for a creature Merfolk Shaman, and he's a 3/3. This is definitely just an interesting card. So whenever World Shaper attacks, you may put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard. And when World Shaper dies, put all land cards from your graveyard onto the battlefield tapped. So now what I'm thinking that this could be in is kind of maybe a... this could be in like a Scape Shift. I mean, obviously you wouldn't play World Shaper over, the Titan, but it is definitely an interesting like kind of alternate way that like at maybe late in the game you could just like play it and then kill it with a bolt or something, kill it yourself with like lightning bolt, and just dump all your lands from your graveyard back into play, and
This is one of those cards that has an ability so odd that right now it doesn't do anything, but it's like a card away from being something good. The other one that I was thinking of with this, I can't remember what it's called. It's the Black Eldrazi that when it comes into play, dump your library into your graveyard, and your graveyard becomes your library. I think it's Inverter of Truth. Something along the lines of that. Like, if you can find a way to like quickly bring in Inverter of Truth, then World Shaper, then you have your Valakuts and all your mountains coming in at the same time and just blow up the world.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, that's super slow. That's why I'm saying that it's a card away. But again, I think we don't sleep on this one. I think this could be something.
Yeah, and like I said, I picked it because it is just a unique card. It has such an odd ability, and like Matt said, it's very close to being there, and it'll do something at some point, and all of us will go, huh? Why is World Shaper a $15 card? That's super odd, and I mean, not anytime soon, but.
Well, and that's just a good way to look at specking at cards too. If it's a card that's 15 cents, but it has a very similar ability to a million other things, it just varies slightly, then it's probably going to stay around 15 cents. But if it's a card like World Shaper that does something completely different that nothing else does, then watch out. Because again, a good example is Scape Shift. Scape Shift was like a $2 card for a really long time. Then all of a sudden it shot up for like $50 because it was a great Modern deck, or it still is a great Modern deck. I mean, it's down now because it got reprinted, but still, an ability that nothing else did.
Yep. All right, Matt. So what is your number 2?
My number 2 is another white Merfolk called Stony Brook Schoolmaster. It is from Morningtide. It is a creature Merfolk wizard. It's a 1/2 for 1 white 2 of anything. And whenever Stony Brook Schoolmaster becomes tapped, you may put a 1/1 blue Merfolk wizard creature token into play. Now, my number 2 I went back and forth on with another card very similar out of the Lorwyn block, and that was Judge Occurrence. And when he taps, you gain 1 life. But I went with him instead because I think this one's more fun. But you can kind of go 2A, 2B for me. And the reason I did that is, again, I'm thinking Commander. Again, I don't think this sees competitive play ever. But there's just so many ways to combo off with this and just make infinite 1/1 counters. Or if you want to do Judge Occurrence, infinite light. So I love those kind of janky, goofy combos. So I'm all about it.
Yeah, there's definitely it's definitely an interesting card, and it's like you said, it's got combo potential because it's just a tap on tap trigger, and so it's something that can be abused. And in Commander, where you have time to set all that up, it's very easy to just kind of fall into those types of things.
And if you're playing like an Azorius Merfolk tribal deck, and you have Judge Occurrence in there, so you could have multiple ways to set up said untap tap combo, and you're good to go. Because if you lose one, you still have the other to protect yourself from losing the game, if that's your win con.
And if your win con is a 3-mana 1/2, most people will kind of just let that kind of slide. They won't be in such a hurry to blow up your Stony Brook Schoolmaster.
Again, unless it's your friends and they know what you're doing.
Yeah, that's basically your only. When people know what you're up to, then it's you're out of luck on another level. So my number 2 is actually a card that's seeing a little bit of play right now, and it is Jadelight Ranger. So Jade Light Ranger is 1 green for a 2/1 Merfolk Scout, and again from Rivals of Ixalan. So Jade Light Ranger has, when Jade Light Ranger enters the battlefield, it explores, then it explores again. So exploring, if you don't remember, is you reveal the top card of your library, put that card into your hand if it's a land, otherwise put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Then you could put that card, you could leave it on the top of your library, or you can put it in the graveyard. So this has explore, and then it explores again. So one thing you could do is you could, reveal the top card, and it's a non-land spell. So you put the +1/+1 counter on Jade Light Ranger, then put the card back on top of your library, then reveal it again, and you get another +1/+1 counter. And then at that point, you can either pitch it or pitch it to your yard, or you can leave it on top if it's something that you wanted. But this is just a deck or a card that in a lot of standard decks right now is kind of playing the part of it either A, ramps you, or B, it filters your draws a little bit. And it also can just be a 4/3 for 3, which is not terrible. And so it's seeing a little bit of standard play right now.
Could you imagine if this card was 1 green 2 of anything? It'd probably be a modern card.
It would definitely be a lot different. I don't know if it would necessarily see a lot of modern play, just because, even Merfolk Branchwalker is kind of fallen out of favor.
I don't know. I think it would make Simic Merfolk a lot more viable, because it just does so much.
Well, see, the reason people don't run Merfolk Branchwalker is just the effect isn't... It doesn't tip you over enough, if you understand. Like, it's good, and you definitely play it if you're playing with Collected Company, but as far as just giving it a +1/+1 counter, it doesn't technically draw you a card unless that card's a land, which is why we like Silvergill Adept. Silvergill Adept always draws you a card, and so it can basically be pseudo draws you a card sometimes. That's kind of the problem, is it doesn't draw you a card unless it's a land. And if you're drawing a whole bunch of lands, then yeah, it does get you past some dead draws. But if you're hoping to hit lands and you don't hit lands, you don't want to be dumping your things into your yard, unless they're additional Aether Vials.
Alrighty, you ready for me to do my number 1 non-blue Merfolk?
Hit me with it.
It is a card that we've talked about actually quite a bit on the podcast, and I think we're both in love with it. Actually, we both had it on our lists, and I was a jerk and made Kody let me have it. So it is Summon the School. It is 1 white, 3 of anything, for a tribal sorcery Merfolk, and it has put 2 1/1 blue Merfolk wizard creature tokens onto the battlefield. And then tap 4, untap Merfolk you control, return Summon the School from your graveyard to your hand. In EDH, this is just straight gas. Especially in the go wide strategy, you can run out of cards very quickly, and this means you always have bodies on the field. It's amazing. I love it. I've played it. I'll continue to play it. It's awesome.
I think one of the best parts about this is just the ability for tapping the creatures is on the card itself. So you can tap creatures that have just come into play that are still affected by summoning sickness. So that just pushes this card very high in my esteem.
Yeah, no, this card's amazing. The art's great. Everything about it's good.
All right, and then
and it kind of reminds me of us in the flavor text. When marrows talk, listeners grow fins. We're the marrows in that analogy.
That's
all,
actually pretty cool.
Listeners are the ones growing fins because you're liking Merfolk more.
I would hope that. I hope people.
I assume that everybody would have gotten the analogy without me explaining it to them, but I did it anyway.
Thanks, Matt.
I'm just that kind of guy.
Yeah, no, that's why we have you on the show. For that and being a human calculator.
Exactly. 7, 9. Thermatology.
All right, so my number 1 is actually one that does see a lot of competitive play in Modern, or at least some competitive play. It is Kumena's Speaker. This is one that was in Ixalan, the first part of that block. It costs green for a 1/1. So this is seeing a lot of play in Swolefolk as well as just standard Merfolk right now. Command Speaker gets +1/+1 as long as you control another Merfolk or an island.
And he's one of the last standing mono green Merfolk in Swolefolk. Is that correct?
Yes. So Swolefolk plays a playset of Command Speaker, and it also plays a playset of Mistwalker or Mistbinder. And that is it. The blue-green lord. And, yeah, that's it.
I mean, he's really good. It kind of goes back to the whole Savannah Lions from Beta and Alpha, where you have that 1 mana, 2 something, 2 power X toughness. But I mean, on turn 1, that's really good, and they're going to get in at least 2, potentially 4 points of damage before all said and done, because it's still not good enough to waste a removal spell on. In most cases.
Well, in Command Speaker's case, it's actually pretty interesting. So generally you go like turn 1 land, Command Speaker, right? So you would generally be playing like either you hit one of your shock lands or you hit Cavern of Souls to play this guy. Then turn 2, you play an island, which immediately makes Command Speaker a 2/2. Then you tap your lands for a Lord of Atlantis, which makes your guy a 3/3 on turn 2, which is pretty insane. 3/3 with Island Walk. So you're swinging for 3 immediately, and then subsequent lords will just pump him up even higher.
But as I said before, when you have the removal spell, you're not trying to blow him up. You're trying to hit the lord. The lord's more important.
Yeah, but see, in the interim, you're still taking 3 at 3, 4, 5 a turn from this guy because he's just there.
Yeah, I mean it's just like a Silver Gill Adept though. Once it's in on the battlefield, you don't really care about it anymore. It's already drawn you the card. If you're wasting a removal spell on that, things went really bad.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And again, just like you said, most people would rather head for the lords instead of hitting a 1/1 for 1. And you would be hard pressed to find a Magic player that would see this as an okay way to spend a lightning bolt or a fatal push. So I really like it. It's one of the best. In Swolefolk you need a lot of 1 and 2 drop pieces, and so this kind of just fits really nicely in that deck.
Agreed.
All right, so that kind of wraps up our top 3 at least of these non-blue Merfolk. Do you have anything else you wanted to add, Matt, before we sign off?
The thing I want to add is actually a direct PSA to Rosewater and the rest of the development team at Wizards. We need more non-blue Merfolk in our lives. As we did the research for this, there just weren't enough. And the ones we had were fine, and some of them were really good, but there was a lot of really bad ones out there too. So come on, hook us up.
There are 29 Merfolk that have 0 blue in them.
And that does not include the changelings, though, correct?
Yeah, that's not including the changelings. If we add the changelings, that adds another 30 or so.
Yeah,
but that's still not a substantial amount.
Again, there's only 2 mono blacks, and neither of them were that great. There were no mono red, so come on, we need more.
Yeah, well, so thank you very much for listening to this episode. Tell us what your top 3 non-blue Merfolk are in the comments on YouTube, where you can find us at youtube.com/fishcastmtg. Tell us on Twitter. That way, we can have a good conversation going. We love having conversations with people on Twitter. So find us there. On Facebook or Instagram, wherever you like to follow us is excellent. So thank you very much.
Let us know how you feel about half people, half seals, who are constantly looking for the ocean.
Yeah, we may have to look more in depth into the lore of Selkies and maybe discuss that at some point. Remember that you can rate and subscribe to us on the Apple Music Store, as well as any other store that you can find us at. So we have the Google Play Store, Stitcher Radio, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, just basically anywhere that is commonly found to stream music. That's where you can find us. And again, we're on YouTube and on Patreon as patreon.com/fishcastmtg. Matt, Any last parting words for our adventurous swimmers out there?
Watch out for the Selkies. Watch out for the Selkies.
And we also have our email is fishcastmtg@gmail.com. So if you have a longer form question, make sure to find us there. Thank you,
And
everybody.
you'll get a serious reply from that because I don't know the password. So Cody will be the one replying to you.
I gave you the password.
Yeah, I didn't remember that thing.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not going to tell you what the password is on air. Maybe after this episode winds down, then I'll talk to you about it.
Unless we have a patron.
Yeah.
Donate enough money, then we'll give you the password. We'll give everybody the password.
And change it immediately.
Or get your email address.
Like I'll have the change password form up as soon as the email goes out to everybody, like the world, because everybody wants to know this information.
Exactly.
Then I will change the email immediately. So thank you very much again for taking the time to spend your week with us, and we will see you all next week.
Have a good night, everyone.